I'm Kalyn. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do a deep dive into master task lists. Now, if you have never heard of a master task list, this is essentially a catch-all place to house and organize all of your tasks. So things that you have to do today, this week, this month, next month, and in the future that maybe you don't want to assign a due date to yet, but it popped in your head, that's something you want to do eventually, and you need a safe place to store that item and organize it so you don't lose it later on. My master task list is the backbone of my productivity system across the board. It is what I reference every day, multiple times a day, and also while I'm doing my weekly planning. Now, my preferred tool for the master task list is Notion. Notion is a digital app slash software slash platform. It's really a whole bunch of tools kind of melded into one. You get a lot of creativity and uniqueness through Notion. Now, you could certainly keep your master task list in a paper planner, or you could just grab a notebook and have a few pages that are categorized via different areas of your life, maybe tasks related to your kids or school or work or home. Whatever it is, you could organize that on paper. You could. But if you have a lot going on, and if you have a lot going on inside your brain, you're going to want a place a little more equipped to handle all those tasks. Plus, using a digital platform is going to make it really easy to delete irrelevant tasks or tasks that you're like, why did I even put that on there? That's not something I want to do, or that's not relevant to my life right now. Delete, and you don't have to cross it out and use whiteout and get all messy. The other thing is you can also add a lot of context to your task. So whether it's a high priority or low priority, how much energy it takes, what category it belongs in, when it's due, what project it's related to. And really the best platform that I found for that is Notion. Let's actually dive into my Notion workspace so you can see how this is all set up and how it functions. I have chosen to use a Notion database for this, because as you can see in the drop down here, it allows me to add all of that context I was talking about earlier in terms of due date, categories, priorities, and even what project it is related to. If I were to just use Notion's checkbox function, I would not be able to add any of those things to a task. I would have to add a header and it would just start to get messy. So I've chosen to use the Notion database for this. And as I'll show you a little later, this allows me to do different views and filters across my Notion workspace. So like if I'm in a project page, I can only see tasks related to that project. But for right here, this is the main database portion. I have 4 different views up top that I can see of my master task list. Every tab is a view, and you can choose different views by going into the 3 dots and the drop down and seeing all 6 different views. You can choose whatever one you want. I typically only use the table, calendar, and list view. Occasionally I'll use a Kanban board view for my tasks. Right here, this, even though it doesn't look like a table view, it still is a table view. Under each drop down, you can see it looks like an Excel table. And why it doesn't show like that at first is because I have it grouped by status. That's another thing you can do with Notion databases, is you can go down here and group by status, group by due date, group by category. Really any type of property that you add to a task is something you could group it by in terms of a different view. Before I show you the other views, I think it's important to go in and actually see all these properties assigned to a certain task. So I'm going to open up a task here and show you what that looks like. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, and up here you could have a cover photo kind of like I have on the master task list page, but because I only reference these tasks maybe once, maybe 2 times, I don't find it necessary to take the time to do that. However, I do like adding icons to my tasks. You have emojis, you also have these more streamlined icons, and then you can also make them different colors. So let me do a little checkbox here, and you can see all the different colors you can have. I tend to just use the black for my business tasks, but I also call out my home and personal tasks with this purple icon. With the status property, you saw that before. the different ones that I have here so I can see what I'm doing now versus what I don't even want to think about now but can do later on. And then I have the due date, which is very easy to choose when this is due. The last completed date is not something that I use for all of my tasks. I actually only use it for a seasonal cleaning task because I want to know when I last deep cleaned the fridge or cleaned out the garbage can. That's really the only reason I use this. That is a property I can actually hide down here. You can set each individual property to either always show, hide when empty, or always hide. And that's something that I say just hide when empty so that when I click that button, it's a really clean and streamlined look. The next section is the weekly theme. So I'm going to unlink that page so you can see I have 4 weekly themes, 1 theme per week. I'm still pretty new at trying this out, but this one in particular is creating a page of my favorite resources, and so this is related to the Brain Book Library theme. So when it comes to that week, I can work on this task. The daily theme is something that is really only for recurring tasks, things that I do on a specific day of the week. The category is pretty self-explanatory, and it's slightly different than the weekly theme in terms of this is the type of task that it is, not necessarily the theme it relates to. The priority level is one that I use all the time. I'm always trying to decide whether my tasks are high or low priority, so I'll add that tag there. I also use this energy tag, so I have, is it a really high energy task? It gets 3 lightning bolts. If it's not, then it's a lower energy task, and I know it's not going to take a lot of brain power to complete. Because I do have a small team, this next property is where I can assign someone to this page. This next property is the project property, and that links to a whole other database that just houses all my projects, so that when I click on this, it is going to show me all the tasks related to that project, of which this one is. The media section I don't use too much unless I'm going to add an image that needs to be referenced or a download. You can easily upload items and files there. KB content, this is connecting to another database of all my YouTube videos, Instagram, blog posts, etc. So if this were related to a specific piece of content that I was putting out, that is where I would fill that in. This next weekday formula is pulling whatever date this is, whatever date it's due, pull the specific weekday of it. It's a very simple formula that you can see here. It's just formatting the due date to the weekday. And then this next formula, don't freak out, it's a little big, but this is a timing formula where whatever the due date is, or whatever the status is, I want this to say something. So if the status is done, then it's going to say done. If the due date is today, say today. If it's tomorrow, say tomorrow. If it's past due, it needs to say needs attention. Or if it's due anytime the day after tomorrow, make sure it says upcoming. You'll see on my personal dashboard where I look at my tasks that I have to do this week, how this property comes into play. And then the next property is the 6-week sprint property. This is related to my 6-week sprint goal setting system. I will put a link in the description if you want to know more about that. But if I were doing a 6-week sprint, I assign a group of tasks to every single week during that sprint to make sure I'm making consistent progress on that particular goal. This is not related to a sprint. I usually do 1 per quarter, but it's there if I need it. And then the occurring section, this is a select property where I can say, does this property occur one time, or is it more on a recurring basis, monthly, weekly, or seasonally? If it's a one-time task, generally I don't fill this out, but I do assign it if it's a recurring task depending on how often it occurs, because that helps me later on be able to reset those tasks at the beginning of a month or at the beginning of a brand new week. And I'm not going to cover recurring tasks here. That will be a different video because that is a whole topic in itself. And then the parent task and subtask properties isn't something that I have played around with a lot. In fact, if there is a subtask of this main parent task, I'm generally just going to put it in the page using that text box property. The other thing you can do if you have a team or if you're collaborating with someone, is add all these comments. So every page has the opportunity to add comments and talk with your team about that item, which I really love. And then here in the page, you could throw in anything you want. You could throw in a PDF. I've thrown in all these links of some inspo pages, of my favorite supplies, of things that I need to reference for this task. So let me go back to the master task list main database and show you the other views that I have going on here. I really like to pull out my home and personal projects view. So this is a list view, not a table view. It doesn't have the Excel type lines that you're used to seeing. And I'm only showing a few different properties here. On these three dots, you can go down to the property section, and any of those properties that I showed you, you could unhide and they would show up here. Now, I don't need to do the category property because this is already filtered to the home and personal projects section. Using this filter up here, category is home and personal, and make sure you show me nothing that is completed or recurring, so I'm not seeing those tasks here. I mainly use this view for on the weekends if I'm looking for something that I'd like to do related to the house, or in the evenings if I finish my to-do list for the day and I still have time to do something else. This next view is the low effort view. We're back to the table view again, and this is just filtered to call out anything where energy is low, the status is not done or recurring, and assigned does not contain anyone else. If I'm really struggling with my energy level for the day, I can come here and find a task that's not going to take a lot of brain power to complete. And then the very last tab is my completed tab. This is back to that list view where it is filtered to show me anything that is complete. And then I also have a sort feature on here, sort by due date descending, so I can see what I completed most recently. And I think this is set to load 25 or 50 items at a time, so I can just click load more, and it's really quite satisfying to see everything that I have completed. So that is the main master task list database. If you were to add a new task, there's a few different ways you could do this. One is to click this new button right here. And this one in particular opens up a template that I have. I need to delete that so you can see all the different templates that I have set up. I'll go over that in just a minute. Right now, this is going over my quick capture high priority template where I'm going to have status is now, priority is high, and it's only going to occur one time. So it's just an easier way to filter that out. So then I could add my task here and then add in, does it relate to a weekly theme? Is it, how much energy does it take? Is it related to any content that I'm going to create? And that's how I could add a new task. I could also go into a filtered view and add a new task down here. Now, when I do this in a filtered view, it's going to already have what this view has been filtered to. So because it's filtered to home and personal, when I add a new task, I can open this up and it's already going to have that home and personal category assigned to it. And because it has that black icon and I want it to have the personal purple icon, I can click that and it will change it for me. To add those templates, you're going to hover over that blue button again and click the drop down arrow. And this is showing all the templates that I have set up already. And I could click new template. And so what I could name this is new task, high priority freelance. And if it's a high priority, it probably needs to be due now. I know it's going to be a freelance, so I'll select that category, and then I know it's also going to be a high priority, and maybe normally my freelance projects are medium level of energy, so I can add that as well. Let's give this a new icon, and let's make all our freelance projects yellow. So now I can get out of that template, and I can click new and choose that template, and it will automatically assign all those properties. So that is the main master task list section to kind of show you that's the database, that's how it works, that's how you can manipulate it in terms of different views and filters and what each task is made of. Now let's go over into my personal dashboard and show you how I've embedded the master task list in this dashboard. We'll do a separate video if you would like about my personal dashboard and how I have it set up. Right now I'm just going to focus on the task section. So the first thing I have here is a brain dump area. This is the same master task list database we just looked at, except it is filtered to show any task where the status is not done and the category is empty. So right here, we were playing around and added a new task, but it didn't have a category. And so if I assign a category, it's going to immediately disappear from that section, and it just keeps it really clean for if I need to quickly add a task. And then down here in the My Tasks section, I have a list view, so not a table view, a list view, and these toggles mean that I am grouping it by something. Right now I'm grouping it by timing. That was that massive formula that I showed you where things, depending on the due date, tell me whether that's today, tomorrow, upcoming, or it needs attention. So I can just see these toggles here, everything that's due today, that's due tomorrow, and then what I have coming up in the next week. Now, if I did not have this filtered to where due date is before 1 week from now, it would have every single task that had an upcoming due date. And I only want to see what I have coming up in the next week. I also have this filtered to show anything that is not done so that when I check this box, that is going to disappear into my completed task section over on my master task list database. The other views that I have here, this little zeroed out icon, is for any task that doesn't have a due date where the status is now. So again, I have a lot of things that where the status is later and doesn't have a due date. I don't want all of those to show up. I just want to show what is something I want to do in the near future, but I don't necessarily need to do it on a specific day. And then this next tab that has a little person icon on it is for any task that I have delegated to someone else on my team. We're still in a list view. I really like the list view for this. And then the last one is filtering by that timing property again, where the timing contains needs attention. So anything that is overdue, which I don't have anything right now, it's at the beginning of the week, but if I did, that would show up here. The next section is a toggle that I really only reference at the beginning of the week and then at the end of the week if I'm moving things around, and that is a weekly snapshot. So I have this filtered to just show a calendar view. You have not seen this view before, but it's a calendar view showing as by week instead of by month. So this is just this week. And what this shows me is at a glance, do I have too many tasks on one particular day? I try not to do more than 4 or 5. So Friday's looking a little busy. I probably need to move that to the next day so I can just drag and drop. I can also see, all right, I've got a few high priority tasks here. I really don't like to go more than 2 high priority tasks a day, so this is looking pretty good right now. So that just gives me exactly what it says, a little snapshot of the week and what I have due going on each day. Now let me take you into another place where I have the master task list embedded, and that is in my projects page. So in these projects, I'll open up this one right here. This is a different database that has a whole new set of properties. We won't go into super detail about that, but down here I have embedded the master task list database again in a table view. It's not grouped by anything, but it's showing me all the tasks related to this project. So I have it filtered by any task where the status is not done and the project contains this summit project. And then the next view over here are any tasks that I have completed related to that project. That other task I showed you did not have the 6-week sprint property filled out. It does here because this is the 6-week sprint that I'm working on currently, and so I'm able to show that property. I could also show any other properties that I wanted, like let's say if I wanted to see who was assigned to a task related to this project. And then this little cool button up here is something you could add if you wanted to play with. It's more of a new feature of Notion. I have this set up so in one click, it's similar to a template but a little different. In one click, I could add a new task that's related to this project page with all of these properties already filled out. So I could just click that button, and down here a new task would open up, and then I can add any properties that I wanted to for that task. The last thing I want to show you that I didn't before is this status property. Maybe you noticed, maybe you didn't, but when you open up the task, the status is showing as now, next, or later. But in this table view, it's showing as a checkbox. How do we change that out? So what you can do is you can do those three buttons. You can go to the properties, the status property, and click the little arrow, and you can say what you want it to show as. Do you want to show it as the select property? So that would be that now, next, later. Or do you want to show it as a checkbox? So in the table view, I like showing it as a checkbox. And that's pretty much it. That's my entire task list in Notion. One last thing I want to cover before we wrap up is how to add to your master task list on the go. Because how I do it is a little bit different than just accessing your entire master task list database. I don't find Notion yet to be super intuitive on the mobile app, so what looks great on desktop is not necessarily going to be conducive to me on mobile, and when I'm out of the house, I have my phone. So what I did is I created a quick capture page that I use as a little shortcut widget on my iPhone. It's right on the home page, so I can just tap it and I open up this new page, this new view that has nothing on it except a linked database of my master tasks, filtered to only show anything that doesn't have a category. So since every other task I've already categorized, nothing's going to show up here, which makes it super clean and simple to just be able to add a new task. And then I do not take the time to categorize or add a due date or add high or low priority, any of that. I'm just trying to capture that task as quickly as possible into my database. And then later on my weekly planning day, which is Sunday, I have a little planning routine that I go through, and on that routine is to check and process anything that I threw into my quick capture area. And so that is when I will go in and format the title to be a little bit prettier, add all that context, and then we're ready to go. Since Notion can be a really overwhelming platform at first, especially if you're brand new to it, I didn't want to just share this video and then leave you on your own. So I do have a free download of my master task list template. So this is kind of a stripped down template of what I used. I did provide as many properties as possible that I thought would be relevant to you, but it's not going to have relational properties to a content database or a project database, because those are things that are unique to my system. But you can certainly add them yourself, and I'm going to provide a video tutorial with that download so you can see how to add those properties if you wanted to go on and add more context to your task. You'll see the link to that download in the description, and you'll also see the button to subscribe. Hit that and also give me a thumbs up if you liked this video and you want to see more Notion content. I hope this video was helpful and also gave you peace of mind that you're not going to lose any of those tasks floating around in your brain anymore. There's a place where you can contain them, organize them, and then retrieve them whenever you need it. I'll talk to you soon.